Welcome to another episode of Ride with Rahul, where we finally get to ride the KTM 390 Adventure. You probably know the specs by now: 373.2cc single-cylinder 4-valve DOHC engine with liquid cooling producing 43 horsepower and 37 Nm of torque. KTM went all out with the electronics package with the bidirectional quick shifter, IMU-powered cornering ABS and traction control, GPS navigation, and the TFT console supports Bluetooth connectivity, and it's an all-color dash, which is amazing in a motorcycle of this segment. The long list of features makes rival brands reduce their pricing and still not able to keep up with the KTM Adventure 390. And I know some people have been complaining about the lack of spoke wheels on a so-called off-roader, but the way I see it, KTM wanted to create a lightweight motorcycle which will be great to tour on the highways and rule the broken roads as well. And then when you take it off-road, it'll manage pretty good out there, but the motorcycle won't risk your life by blowing out a tube in the middle of highway, as it happens commonly with spoke wheels. Hey, personally I've suffered it, so I know how dangerous tube tires can be, so I'm happy with the alloys. So let's just ride it out and see how good it is. We'll compare it with the ADV 250 which we rode last week, and I will give you my honest opinion, like always. We have a very good turning radius for this motorcycle. So this bike is running the Mezzola Tourance. We probably were running a little bit extra air pressure because after reducing the air pressure, because I am a lighter rider, I do feel that the front end feel and cornering stability has increased like it was on the Duke 250 or the Adventure 250 rather. So I feel pretty happy about that. The Duke 390 was doing about 140 in the corners. I don't expect that out of this kind of a motorcycle, but we were still doing pretty good speeds. The thing is, this bike has good mid-corner stability, but initial corner entry, the front end, if you're braking a little bit too late, then the front end dive is definitely going to be there with such a long travel suspension. Problem is the mid-corner course correction, because if you brake, like I had to adjust my line for the bicycle that was doing, and we had to kind of deal with the front end dive, if you saw that. So that's one of the problems while going very aggressive with the adventure motorcycle. Remember, this is not supposed to be ridden like that. So for its purpose, for its touring purpose, the type of long sweeping corners that you might encounter on a highway will be done quite fine. And even if you're doing canyon roads, unless you're absolutely trying to wreak havoc, this will be fine. If you're doing very sharp corners, then getting the bike into the corner is going to be difficult. So for those kind of chicane turns where you have to flip the bike left to right quickly, that might be a little bit of a problem. It isn't on the 250 because that anyways carries less speed, but on this bike you have to be a bit careful. Breaking down from 156 kilometers down to just 35 kilometers. Strong amount of engine braking like expected from KTM. So I do have a feeling that the 250 is a kind of a more smoother power delivery. Starting up on the KTM 390 Adventure, and this is my subscriber Abhay. See you. So he's been lending us his bike for the review and road test. 855 millimeters of seat height, which, like I said, isn't such of a big deal. So last week I was riding 250 Adventure, and today is riding the 390 Adventure. I would say the seat heights are very similar. So in my last video I did say that the 250 seemed lower. I revised my judgment. Both have the same seat height. So the KTM's official spec of 855 millimeters of seat height is okay, I would say. And like you saw, my subscriber, he is about 5'6", I should say, and he's managing this bike. So I mean, if you have the skills, you can do it. This bike is not all that heavy, so you will be on one of your foot. You cannot get both feet down, even with my height of 5'8". But if you lean it towards one side, your one foot will get down quite a bit. So it's not an impossible task to ride this motorcycle, if that's what you guys wanted to know about. Talking about the ergonomics, this has a very big bike feel. Wide handlebars, nice comfortable sitting position, and if you decide to stand up on this bike, that's pretty good as well. And thanks to the quick shifter, the good thing is that you don't really need to sit down to shift, though I would say that the shifts can be a little bit harsh, so it kind of destabilizes the motorcycle while you're standing up. The windscreen, it's on its higher position, and that's good. It's blocking quite a lot of wind blast, not if you're standing up. While seated, it's one of the most comfortable and commanding riding positions that I've had. Now, I wasn't expecting this to be so damn flickable. For an adventure bike, I mean, the flickability is a little bit more than I expected. Like I said on the 250 video, I give this 10 out of 10 in ergonomics. Yeah, you have to be a certain height to be comfortable, but it's really good. So this motorcycle has the same gearing ratio as the 390 Duke, which makes it quite a zippy motorcycle. Of course, due to the suspension travel, you do have that feeling of the bike bouncing up a bit. I would say on this bike the suspension's set to soft, so it can be adjusted because the rear is a 10-step preload adjustable. The front is non-adjustable. The power difference from the 250 is quite evident. That's always there with the 390. If you have ridden the 390 and 250 Duke versions, you know the difference in power. So the similar difference in power is obviously there. I would say that 250 was much less vibey, and this one has more vibrations, especially on the handlebars. I can feel it, though on the foot pegs not so much. As you can see, riding through city traffic, there's a lot of power on tap. Perhaps you don't even need all that power. We're just doing third gear, and there's always a lot of power on tap while you're riding that Duke 390. So that's not what you need to worry about. What you need to worry about maybe about the clearance. Yes, this bike has wider handlebars, so compared to some commuter motorcycle, it might be a little bit of an issue to filter in very tight spaces, but overall it's fine. It's not that wide, you can squeeze it in. It's a manageable motorcycle in the city, and like I said, if you live in spaces where you have bad city road riding conditions, you can go with this motorcycle. It will be good for you. Now, the Duke 390 is known for its bonkers power delivery, and this motorcycle is no different. Like you see, all the traffic behind has completely disappeared in a second. So very capable motorcycle. Somehow it feels even lighter than the Duke 250, though it is not. I've been told that there is a 4 kg weight difference and this is the heavier bike, but due to the insane difference in the power to weight ratio, this motorcycle actually feels lighter despite being slightly heavier. So weight wise, 250, 390 doesn't make much of a difference. On the road, at least, this bike feels lighter thanks to all that extra power. And with the higher travel suspension, as usual, there is no feeling when it's going over bumps. You just don't feel it. Braking, it has the same 320mm disc up front as the 250, but I would say on the 250 the brakes feel better because that's a slower motorcycle. It has the same brakes. This is the same brakes, guys, and I know that on the 390 they give the sintered pads, which makes the brake pads a little bit more frictional, so better braking performance. But still, the 250 felt easier to brake on because that one was a slower motorcycle with bigger brakes. This one, yeah, the brakes are adequate, and you know, if you judge it on its own, these brakes are sufficient, but when you have ridden the 250, you might feel that the braking power is a little, just a tad little less. So mainly the difference will be in the electronics and the power. That's what I can tell you, because the bike ride feel and everything is way too similar to make much more differentiations between them. The bike handles the same, only the gearing ratio, the power and all of that is the major difference, is what I can see so far. We're doing some ride in some heavy traffic conditions, and like you guys can see, I'm pretty much handling it like any other commuter I would. But yes, there is this issue with the refinement, and I don't know whether this is with this bike, because when I rode the 390 Duke it wasn't so vibey, and here I can definitely feel strong amount of vibration on the right handlebar, which is, I know KTMs are not completely vibration free, especially in the 390 platform, but this much vibration seems to be a little bit on the higher side, to be honest. So cruising speed, this is a 390. I don't really need to do this test to tell you that this motorcycle will cruise at 120 kilometers per hour all day without breaking into a sweat. I mean, I'm talking, not talking 100 to 120, we're talking about 120 above, and this motorcycle will do it with a grin on its face. There's a lot of people asking me a question about the motorcycle having its power band, and the peak power is a relatively higher rev range. Now remember one thing, that's just peak power. So this motorcycle comes with around 43 horsepower and 37 newton meters of torque. Now, whereas the torque is coming in at around 7,000 RPM, and people want a low-end torque. So that doesn't mean that you're not getting enough torque at 3,000 or 4,000 RPM. Ride this motorcycle, you will feel that there is enough torque available at 3,000 RPM. May not be 37 newton meters, but if you put this on a dyno, then you can see that it's not like that it has a very peaky performance. That's not the characteristics of single cylinder motors. Now this windshield, like I said, it can be adjusted, and it's adjustable by an Allen key. You cannot adjust it while riding. I probably feel this has been kept in the higher position. Yeah, this has been raised already. There is still a strong amount of wind on the head, but at least up till the shoulders on the jacket, I don't feel that much wind. So it is blocking out wind. The first wind blast that I'm feeling is on my neck. So I would say that it's a pretty functional windscreen despite the small or shorter appearance. Just a couple of years back, nobody expected traction control, cornering ABS, that too IMU powered, a quick shifter, full colored TFT dash to come to this segment of a motorcycle. And here we are in 2020. All of these things, I mean, KTM definitely delivers value for the price it commands. Yeah, for the person who does not appreciate technology, it might seem a little bit overpriced, but for people who understand motorcycling, the people who understand the type of high-end features that this motorcycle is offering, none of them is gimmicky, by the way. Testing out the top speed, couldn't do it because dog came in the way, but tested out the brakes, and yeah, in this bike you have to put in at least 40% rear brake. It's a pretty scary scenario because we were doing quite a good amount of speeds and that dog was completely clueless. As you saw, the braking was phenomenal. We've been riding the Adventure 390. Firstly, let's talk about the differences. We did a lot of testing with it, and last week we were riding the 250 Adventure, so that's what we're going to compare it here. So first of all, the color, it's matte orange. The 250 comes in an orange, but it's a glossy orange. The other color option for this is white. For that one, I believe it's black. Talk about the electronics. We have a TFT console with Bluetooth connectivity. We have cornering ABS, quick shifter, and an IMU powered traction control, and that also factors into the cornering ABS. So this has an IMU, that one doesn't. So electronically, this motorcycle gets a lot of kit, and it's all useful both on and off-road. You can turn it off, the ABS, traction control, everything. You can turn off the ABS for the rear wheel. We've got Metzeler Tourance tires on this one, whereas the 250 comes with MRF, though the new version of the 390s are coming with MRF because there's a little bit of problems with importing tires after the lockdown. But these tires, we found them to be performing way better in off-road. Though road grip levels are similar to MRF, I could not really differentiate much with it. That being said, the 250 has a more relaxed power delivery, which feels better in the off-road sections. On the road or highway, 390 feels much better. When you gain speed, the motorcycle suspension starts absorbing the bumps better. So obviously high speed, high risk, but the bike feels good at high speed on off-road. So yeah, for adventure riders, they will definitely like it. The pillion comfort. My friend was riding pillion and we were going over some really rough patches of road. But here, he was absolutely happy on the pillion seat. So the final question is, if today I had to choose a motorcycle for touring, would I choose this or the Adventure 250? I would say the 390 after riding this. I am personally a Duke 390 rider, so after riding this, yeah, I do mostly on-road, and whenever I do off-road, I do it relaxed. I don't try to be too adventurous there. For me, I would go with the 390 because it's just 50,000 rupee difference, and with all that power you're getting, the better tires, the better electronics package, I think 390 makes a lot more sense. If you want to do a lot of off-road but you don't want that much power, you want a little bit more mileage, then yes, 250 does make a good option for your type of riding. But otherwise, just stick with the 390.